Now, we're going to finish back on the subject of Ukraine, but this was an astonishing little report from the Atlantic Council about Zelensky. And here's the headline: Zelensky wants Ukraine to be a big Israel. Here's the roadmap. So think about the carnage on the battlefield to date, the huge number of men and women who are dying on the battlefields out there. But apparently where Zelensky is heading is to create a new big Israel. Now, in this Atlantic Council article, it links through to Haaretz, and this is the Haaretz headline. Zelensky says post-war Ukraine will emulate Israel. It won't be liberal European. Soldiers in cinemas, supermarkets, and people with weapons is Ukraine's future, Zelensky tells reporters, as the country's leaders begin to imagine what a precariously post-war Ukraine might look like. So this is very, very dark stuff. I can't give you more from Haaretz because it was goes behind a paywall. But if we jump back to what was actually said, I see the future for Ukraine as a big Israel. That was Zelensky. Apologies that's not at the bottom of the slide. Gone are hopes for an absolutely liberal state, replaced by the likely reality of armed defence forces patrolling movie theatres and supermarkets. I'm confident that our security will be the number one issue over the next 10 years. So this is quite an incredible statement. What exactly is being built in Ukraine? Is this simply out the head of Zelensky, or is this out of the head of US, UK and NATO sources? So if we have a look at detail at the Atlantic Council, what are the big ideas for Zelensky to consider? Security first. Every Israeli government promises first and foremost that it will deliver security, and it knows it will be judged on this pledge. Ordinary citizens, not just politicians, pay close attention to security threats, both across borders and from internal sources. And many of the public are going to choose who they elect by this metric alone. So you're going to vote for security, which I think many people would say is actually violence. The whole population plays a role. The Israeli model goes further than Zelensky's vision of security services deployed to civilian spaces. Most young Israeli adults serve in the military, and many are employed in security-related professions following their service. A common purpose unites the citizenry, making them ready to endure shared sacrifice. So this is giving us a picture of something that's really quite incredible in my mind. Zelensky is putting forward that Ukraine is going to stay a militarized state, is what we're being shown here. Self-defense is the only way. If there's any single principle that animates Israel's security doctrine, it's that Israel will defend itself by itself and rely on no other country to fight its battles. The tragedies of Jewish history have embedded that lesson deep in the nation's soul. Ukraine's own trauma, forced to fight alone against a larger aggressor, reinforces a similar conclusion. Don't depend on the guarantees of others. Well, there's some irony in that statement, Mike, because of course Zelensky absolutely is dependent on the guarantees of others and has been burnt as a result. It says maintain active defence partnerships. Self-defence doesn't mean isolation. And it says that Ukraine will probably not join NATO anytime soon, but it can deepen security partnerships with alliance members and receive aid, weaponry, intelligence and training to bolster its self-defense. So all good stuff to building this draconian state. Intelligence dominance. From its early days, Israel has invested deeply in its intelligence capabilities to ensure that it has the means to detect and deter its enemies. Ukraine will need to upgrade its intelligence services to compete against Russian capabilities and to ensure it's prepared to prevent and repulse Russian attacks. Technology is key. Although it relies on US assistance, Israel also chooses homegrown technology solutions for many of its greatest challenges: multi-layer rocket missile defences, counter-drone systems, tunnel detection. These are all great ideas, apparently, and Ukraine needs to get on board with them and build an innovation ecosystem. The training many Israelis receive in high-tech innovation in the military contributes to a civilian innovation ecosystem, which in turn promotes the development of new security technologies. Ukraine has no lack of talented coders and engineers, many of whom are employed by Israeli startups. This gets better as you read through it, Mike. Encouraging the free flow of talent and ideas between the civilian and security innovation spaces will pay long-term security and economic dividends. Maintain the democratic institutions. Israel continues to face the challenge of ending its conflict with the Palestinians in ways that ensures both its security and the Palestinian self-determination. But within Israel itself, a constant focus on security hasn't prevented the uploading of core democratic institutions and practices. Zelensky seems aware of this tension, which will require constant maintenance, but also that democracy is a prerequisite. An authoritarian state is impossible in Ukraine. So he describes building an authoritarian state and then says that an authoritarian state in Ukraine is impossible. And if we just finish off here, the final comment by the Atlantic Council article is, like Israel in its early years, Ukraine appears to have fended off an acute existential threat, but the war is far from over. By adapting their country's mindset to mirror aspects of Israel's approach to chronic security challenges, Ukrainian officials can tackle critical national security challenges with confidence and build a similarly resilient state. My comment on this is become more like Israel. That'll give us love and peace, and that's going to be assured in Ukraine and Eastern Europe as it is in the Middle East around Israel. Or am I being too cynical?
Yes, no. I mean, I don't really know where to start with that. There's so much could be unpacked in that little...
Well, we'll take a bit of time in future news to do that. But I just wanted to end by bringing this one, because, of course, when Israel says it stands alone in the first instance, well, here's USAFacts. How much military aid does the US give to Israel? The United States approved over $3.8 billion in foreign assistance to Israel in 2019, the most recent year of complete data. About $8.5 million of that aid went to the economy. The remainder to the 8.5 million of that aid went towards the economy, and the remainder went to the Israeli military. This is part of the 10-year, $38 billion Memorandum of Understanding signed in 2016. It's the third agreement of its kind, following two signed during the George W. Bush and Clinton administration. So basically $38 billion pumped in by the US for war, and that's what they've achieved consistently around Israel in that time. And we are saying we're going to use this as the model for Ukraine.
Yeah.
It is in your face what is being done at the moment. We'll leave that segment there.
Okay, let's end with a couple of memes, Debbie.
Yes, these are self-explanatory, really. Here we have the tree of liberty, and liberty is being starved and is getting very thirsty, I think. So I think it's all time we stood up and rose up and stood strong, because things are definitely seem to be accelerating. And then the current world population, 8 billion, I don't know how to actually say that, but it's over 8 billion.
8 billion. Go on.
No, go on, Brian, I'll let you do it.
Well, the point is that both numbers are the same. So current world population
Exactly.
And people born from women are the same number, and people born from men is 0.
Yeah, feel free to fact check. I mean, it's really that simple. And I would also just like to, before you go to the final two memes, just very quickly put out a bit of a plea for anybody who's like me, not very tech savvy. The emergency alerts are going to be this Sunday, so St. George's Day, and Rishi Sunak is very keen that nobody switches off their phone for these emergency alerts. However, I personally have switched it off, but I needed help in the settings on my phone. So if you do have people that are vulnerable or elderly and maybe do have a phone and don't know that this alert's going out at 3:00 on Sunday, perhaps you would warn them or maybe ask them if they want the alert to be switched off. So that's this Sunday at 3:00, St. George's Day, emergency alerts on your phone.
Yeah,
and that
Debbie,
just took me to my...
Well,
Sorry.
I'm just going to say we've mentioned the emergency alerts a couple of times, including last Friday. We're going to mention it again this Friday, and we do have a couple of graphics that show how to switch it off. So pay attention on Friday if you want to know.
Oh, absolutely!
That's a
Thank
good
you so
thought.
much for that.
Imagine that
Yeah,
we're going to share the knowledge of how to switch off the government. Can you imagine if this was done on a bigger scale? You simply press the button and that's the whole of the UK government switched off. We could leave a bit of the civil service running, but we could get back to running our lives in a peaceful, organised way. I think you must do more work on that, Mike.
Yeah, okay, right, okay. Okay, just to end.
Actually, those screenshots I will be forwarding to everybody via Twitter and everyone. So get those screenshots that Mike's going to get ready for us.
Yeah. Okay, so let's end with this.
Yes, well, I remember when a boy going into the girls' locker room was a crime, not a right. And the second one, if I don't get vaccinated, I'm 100% protected against vaccine side effects and 99.8% protected against COVID. That's a good deal. Let that sink in.
Okay.
All right, we will end there. Thank you very much to our audience for joining us wherever you are in the world. And it is really encouraging to see that alongside our UK audience, we've definitely got a growing overseas audience. So we'll say today, welcome to Norway. But it's really great to get the emails in from you, information and thanks. And also we are very interested in hearing more about what's happening in countries overseas, if you can provide that information.
Back in a couple of minutes for some extra.
Bye-bye.